Over the last 15 and a half years, Bitcoin has gone from being seen as magic internet money worth less than a penny per coin to being worth more than $74,000 per coin, and now being endorsed by two of the main US presidential candidates, both of which promised to build a US Bitcoin strategic reserve if they get elected. So with that said, are you late to Bitcoin? Well, hey guys, welcome to the Bitcoin Experience. In this video, I want to help you answer the question, am I late to Bitcoin? To do this, we will look at Bitcoin's current position relative to other assets in the world, and as part of that, we will go through some numbers and estimates so that you can get a much clearer picture of where Bitcoin is and where it could go to in the future. But before we dive in, I just want to mention something very quickly. We are trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, and we're less than 250 away. So if you get value from this video and you want to help us reach our goal, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free for you, and you would be supporting me with creating more Bitcoin only content for you guys. Having that said, let's get into the video. So to get a good understanding of where Bitcoin is relative to other assets, we can use a graphic that was created by Jesse Myers, aka Croesus_BTC. I highly encourage you to go and give him a follow on Twitter because he puts out a lot of good content. But we will use this graphic that he's created, which contains all the assets in the world. So as you can see in this graphic, we've got Bitcoin, we've got gold, art, cars and collectibles, equities, real estate, bonds, and money. Now, Jesse created this graphic a while back, so I had to go and update a few of the market caps. But what I also did is I transferred all this information into an Excel spreadsheet so that we can go through the exercise that I wanted to show you guys, which should help you understand if you are late to Bitcoin or not. So here we have the spreadsheet that I was telling you guys about. As you can see, I've updated it with Bitcoin's market cap being at $1.1 trillion, gold's at $16.5 trillion, art remained at $18 trillion, cars and collectibles remained at $8 trillion, equities $115 trillion, real estate went up to $379 trillion, bonds went up to $315 trillion, and money stayed the same at $120 trillion. And if we add up the market cap of all these asset classes, we get a total global wealth of $972 trillion 600 billion US dollars. And what I did is I also added this section which calculates how much of a percentage of the total global wealth each asset class represents. So as you can see, Bitcoin is around 0.11%, gold is 1.7%, art is 1.85%, and so on and so forth. Now, this is really helpful because it can give you a very quick glance at how much of the total global wealth each asset represents. And as you can see, Bitcoin is not even at 1%. It's barely at 0.1% of the total global wealth. Now that's going to become a bit more important later in the video, so make sure you watch until the end. Okay, so the exercise that I want to do with you guys is try and estimate how much of each asset class's market cap can Bitcoin capture, which is why I created this table on the side so we can input a percentage of how much of each market cap Bitcoin can capture. And once we input all the estimates, we will get a potential market cap for Bitcoin as well as a price per Bitcoin if it reaches that market cap. Now, the reason why we're doing this exercise is because every single one of these asset classes that I showed you in the table have what is called monetary premium. Now, monetary premium is something that an asset acquires above its utility value. So when people buy something, not because they want to use it, but because they think it's going to go up in value over time, that's what's called a monetary premium. And many assets throughout history have developed monetary premiums. And the reason why things develop monetary premiums is because our money is broken. I'm not going to get into that whole subject because it's not the purpose of this video, but very quickly, money has three functions: to be a store of value, a medium of exchange, and a unit of account. And the majority of fiat currencies that we have in the world function relatively well as mediums of exchange and units of account. However, they all fail to be a good store of value, some more than others. And the reason for that is because we live in a debt-based monetary system which requires the debasement of currency, aka loss in purchasing power. So the currencies are not good at storing wealth, aka storing purchasing power. As such, people look for other things that they can put their money in to preserve or even grow their purchasing power over time. So the purpose of this exercise is to see how much of that monetary premium can Bitcoin capture from each asset class. And we'll take them one by one, and I'll quickly explain why Bitcoin can capture a specific percentage of each asset class. Okay, so let's start with gold. In my opinion, Bitcoin can capture at least 50% of gold's current market cap. Now, the reason for that is because gold is primarily used as a monetary asset. It is a form of money that's been around for more than 5,000 years, and people hold it because it is sound money. Now, despite what people like Peter Schiff would tell you that, gold is valuable because it's used in industry and jewelry, the reality is that the majority of gold's market cap is monetary premium. It is held primarily as a form of money. Now, the way many people look at Bitcoin, which is a very simple and easy to understand concept, is seeing it as being digital gold. And since it's digital, Bitcoin doesn't have the restrictions that gold does because of its physical nature. As such, I think that Bitcoin is at least 10 times better at being money than gold is. And I made a whole video about this. I'll link it down below in the description if you want to go and watch it. But because Bitcoin is already better than gold at being money, I think that Bitcoin has a very good chance of capturing at least 50% of gold's current market cap. Okay, next up we have art, and this market cap is $18 trillion. Now, unlike gold, artwork is held primarily as something like a status symbol. People enjoy having art because it makes them feel a bit special. They have some sort of exclusivity to look at pieces of art that no other people can. So in my opinion, there's not a lot of monetary premium on top of these assets. Yes, the reality is that they do go up in value over time because they are completely scarce, and there is a certain demand for these pieces of art. But in my opinion, there isn't that much monetary premium in this asset class, which is why I think Bitcoin has the ability to capture at least 10% of the market cap of art. Next up, we have cars and collectibles, which is another asset class that are held primarily not because of their monetary properties, but because people who own them like the exclusivity of owning something so rare and something that nobody else has. They're again a status symbol and not much more than that, though they also go up in price over time because of their absolute scarcity. And since they are owned for pretty much the same reasons as artwork, I think Bitcoin has the chance to capture at least 10% of this market cap as well. Moving on, we have equities, which are basically stocks. The market cap for equities is around $115 trillion globally. So if you add up all the stock markets in the world, you would get around $115 trillion market cap. And in my opinion, Bitcoin can capture at least 25% of this market cap. Now, the reason for that is because in the past, people used to own stocks because they wanted to benefit from the cash flows that these businesses would throw off. However, over the last 10, 20, 30 years, most people have started buying stocks not because they care about the cash flows that the company generates. Yeah, that's nice. But the majority of buying and holding of stocks has been because people expect capital appreciation in the price of stocks. And we've seen many examples of companies that have been running at a loss, yet somehow the stock price continued to go up. And that's because people expect that these companies at some point in the future will become profitable and they will be generating free cash flows. But in the meantime, they're just gambling on the possibility of the stock price going up and being able to sell it at a higher price. And for this reason, many stocks have developed a monetary premium where people don't buy them for their utility, aka cash flow generation, but they buy it because they want to put their money into something that has a very high chance of going up in price over time. Then we have real estate, which is the largest asset class in the world, $379 trillion currently. And this is one of the asset classes that has some of the most monetary premium embedded into it because, again, houses are something that are scarce and they cannot be printed into existence overnight. For example, like fiat currencies, or even stocks that can just issue more shares overnight. People don't necessarily buy real estate for its utility value. Instead, they buy it because they know it's relatively scarce, which means that over time, there's a high chance that the price or value of that real estate will go up. So to protect their purchasing power, instead of keeping money in the bank or risking it in the stock market, they would rather own real estate, which generates them some cash flow. And in places like the US, they can also help with reducing reducing their tax bill. But there's a global problem where rich investors buy up real estate not to live in them, but simply to keep them as a savings account. And because of that, I think that Bitcoin can capture at least 33% of this asset class because so much of it has developed a monetary premium. Next up, we have bonds, which is another massive asset class worth $315 trillion. If you understand how bonds work, you understand that they're basically certificates of confiscation. Right now, yes, you can buy some US bonds and they'll pay you around 5% per year. But the reality is your cost of living is going up more than 5% per year. Your cost of living is not the CPI. So if you're buying bonds, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose purchasing power over time. Now, the reason why people buy so many bonds is because when they have a lot of money in terms of excess cash and they want to have it in a liquid form, they don't want to keep it in a bank, because in banks, usually it's insured up to $250,000 per bank account. So if you have more than that and you want to keep it in a relatively liquid form, the best place to keep it in are bonds, because they're a liability of the US government. So it's relatively easy to get in and out of bonds, and they're very close to being a cash instrument. Over time, not only the US government, but governments all over the world will have to issue more and more debt. So the fact that these instruments are guaranteed to lose you purchasing power over time, and the fact that the only reason why people buy them is because they're liquid, I think that Bitcoin has a very good chance of capturing at least 75% of this market cap over the long term. And finally, we have money, a market cap worth $120 trillion. And this is basically comprised of all the fiat currencies in the world, all the money in circulation. And since the majority of currencies in the world are complete garbage and they will go to zero first against Bitcoin, then against the US dollar, I think it's safe to assume that at least 50% of this market cap can be captured by Bitcoin. Okay, so now that we have all the probabilities written down and entered into our table, let's see how much the market cap of Bitcoin can reach if Bitcoin does end up capturing this much of each asset class. So if Bitcoin is to capture 50% of gold's current market cap, 10% of art, 10% of cars and collectibles, 25% of equities, 33% of real estate, 75% of bonds, and 50% of money, it could potentially reach a market cap of $462 trillion $20 billion, which would put the price per Bitcoin at over $22 million a coin. Now, you might think that this is absolutely insane. There is no way Bitcoin can reach $22 million per coin. And you might be right. I'm not saying that this is absolutely what's going to happen. These are just my estimates. This is what I think Bitcoin can capture from each asset class. And if that's the case, these are the results that I expect to materialize. Now, if you want to input your own estimates of how much Bitcoin can capture from each asset class, then let me know in the comments below and I can send you this spreadsheet so you can do this whole exercise for yourself and find out how much you think Bitcoin can reach in market cap in the future, which should also tell you how much you can expect Bitcoin to reach based on your own estimates. But let's say that you completely disagree with my estimates in this table, which fair enough. But in that situation, what probability would you give this scenario to happen? Would you give it, let's say, 10% probability? If you do, then what I did is I created this quick table to calculate how much the price per Bitcoin would be if you give a specific probability of my scenario happening. So if you don't give my scenario a 100% probability to happen, so you're saying there is no way Bitcoin can reach $462 trillion market cap or $22 million per coin, but I give it a 10% chance to reach that market cap and that price per Bitcoin, then let's input that 10% probability. Well, that means that you expect Bitcoin at some point in the future to reach $2.2 million per coin. But okay, let's say that you're even more pessimistic and you're saying, nah, I don't give this thing even 10% chance to happen. The best I would give it is 5%. Fair enough. Let's put 5% probability of my scenario happening. And if we do that, then what you're effectively saying is that you expect the price of Bitcoin in the future to reach $1.1 million per coin. Now, currently Bitcoin is trading at around $60,000 per coin, something like that. But if you give my estimation a 5% chance of happening, then you expect Bitcoin to get to $1.1 million per coin. And it's currently trading at $60,000 per coin. So with that said, are you late to Bitcoin? Based on a 5% probability of my scenario happening, you're very early to Bitcoin. And we saw this earlier when we first introduced this table, because Bitcoin represents not even 1% of the total global wealth. Right now, Bitcoin is just a rounding error when it comes to total global wealth. So despite the fact that Bitcoin is trading in the tens of thousands of dollars per coin, you are still early. You are not late to Bitcoin. So don't be put off by the high price per Bitcoin, because you could have bought it 10 years ago at $100 or whatever the price was back then. And just to give you even a bit more motivation to start buying Bitcoin, aka stacking sats, you don't need to have tens of thousands of dollars to start investing in Bitcoin. In fact, all you need is 1 penny. There are platforms like Strike where you can buy as little as 1 penny worth of Bitcoin at a time. So don't be discouraged by the high price that you see on the screen and think that you missed the boat. In my opinion, we are still very early, and I think I've demonstrated with numbers for you that we are still early and you have not missed the boat. But like I said, if you want to take this spreadsheet and input your own probabilities, your own estimates of how much of each asset class Bitcoin can capture, let me know in the comments below and I'll send you the spreadsheet. Okay, so that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me until the end. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time to explain my thinking and my reasoning. I hope I managed to make it very clear to you that you are not late to Bitcoin. You are still very early, and Bitcoin has so much more room to grow from here. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to help us reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. Also, make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Give it a dislike if you completely disagree with what I had to say, or if you don't like the video at all, that's also fine. Until next time, guys, keep stacking, keep hodling, and remember that Bitcoin is hope.